My cats might do the same
Oh yeah, your brick shit house.
thing.
Okay, we're recording. So hi, how's it going?
Doing great. How are you, David?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Oh, I've forgotten your name. Oh my goodness, Gary. Oh,
Hey.
sorry about that, Gary. I was just editing in my last interview with Jonathan so much. So I got his head in my, got his mind, it got his name in my head. Okay, Gary, how's it going? You're an English tutor on the prepaid platform, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I teach English on the platform, and that's it.
Okay, I was just checking out your profile. You've got about what 2,000, yeah, 2,100 classes done. That's really good. How long have you been teaching on that for?
I've been teaching on the platform, and sometimes my cat likes to join me on these lessons. Um, I've been teaching on the platform for about 3 years now, and that's kind of where I got started with the online teaching. But about half of my business is actually off the platform. Sometimes it's even been higher.
Okay, okay. So you have about half your hours. Are you saying like weekly on another platform or on your own platform?
Just on my own. Like I just have a lot of private students, so yeah, I end up getting referrals from my current students, or I have other means of recruiting. And one tip that I could share with everybody is to get involved in different groups, whether it's like Facebook, Instagram, and so on, and have a specialty. So one way to make myself more marketable was studying how to teach the TOEFL and how to teach the Duolingo English test. And like, I don't mess with Yelts, maybe someday, but I focused on those two. And then I started joining those groups. And from those, I was able to get a lot of students to teach those exams, but then people also wanted to follow up sometimes and just work on their general English.
All right. So I mean, I'm all about specialization, especially we're in the pre-play space. There's like however many English tutors, like 13,000 or
A
something.
billion.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's becoming obviously becoming it's always what has been a very competitive environment. And yes, okay, as it's progressing, the way to go forward, I think, is specialization because, like you said, you can really focus on that thing. That's one of the things that I put on my profile and I get new tutors asking me, or I give advice to new tutors is like really explain and makes clear what you can do and what you're familiar with and what you can specialize in. And like you're saying, okay, so you don't focus on, is it IELTS?
No, I don't focus on the IELTS, just general English, business English, TOEFL, and Duolingo.
Duolingo, I mean, isn't that another website? Is that like they have, is it's not a qualification? I mean, like TOEFL, I understand. That's like a certification for immigration purposes or for changing countries or for going to university or college, right? But then Duolingo,
So
what do they?
DET in the past couple of years during the pandemic opened up a new test that is directly in competition with the IELTS and TOEFL, and it's cheaper. It's only $49, so you can take it about like 4.5 times for the cost of taking the TOEFL. It's completely done at home, so it's a much better option for students because especially in the groups that I see, you get a lot of people from like the Middle East and South America and some countries that aren't as economically stable where, maybe if you're in like, the US, Germany, Norway, whatever, like you'll have a higher income and be able to afford, doing the Yelts and TOEFL. But yeah, so the Duolingo is kind of a better exam for
What what
those
what do
folks.
your students do it for? I mean, is it for college entrance or is it for immigration purposes?
It's for college entrance. So like right now, there's about 16,000 universities that are accepting it, and it's growing all the
Wow,
time.
nice.
And like if you look it up, you'll see like the TOEFL Home Edition actually started copying the structure from Duolingo and making it cheaper and everything else because Duolingo's been taking so much money from them.
Well, that's why I'm very excited about it. Happy to hear it because competition is good. It does push prices down. It pushes quality up. I mean, you see it between the top colleges and universities. Like in England, we have Oxford and Cambridge, and it's always good to have that instead of having a monopoly with only one person leading the pack. It's good to have these two because they're constantly battling against each other, which, like I said, it pushes up the quality. It's really, really good, and then down the cost. I'm very happy about that. Yeah, okay. That's really, really good. I wanted to ask you a question about, let's see, you're training people up to do a test. It's low cost. Oh yes, this is the thing. It's about the cost. Is that I teach a few people to a couple of college entrance exams. That's why I'm asking you things like the GMAT or the GRE. Like these are postgraduate entrance courses, and the problem is the price, or the limiting factor is the price. So okay, the entrance exams for United States, which means you have to pay entrance anyway. I guess there's other costs involved, but really what bothers me is that really the key to passing those exams, the key to getting the best grade, is you do the exam 4 or 5 times. That's it.
That, and you need a lot of money for really good tutoring.
Yeah, that's, well, that, I mean, it's the American model, isn't it? I'm sorry to say that, but the American model for education is based upon money, and for you guys, it's a business, and you guys are the more money you have, and unfortunately, that creates this segregation in society between people who have and people who don't have. Which is, I was talking to a tutor the other day about the online tutoring and the pre-apply space and what we do, and we see a lot of comments on the forums about new tutors and people talking about the prices and how much people are charging, how much people are getting paid. Just to be clear, there's a lot of people working for very low prices, and there's some people working for higher prices. I'm charging $40 an hour, so it's a bit hypocritical for me to say that I'm happy that people are charging so little, because it means there is access to education for everybody on the spectrum. It creates a spectrum, which is great, which means everyone can get into it. So there's good tutors. I'm really working towards getting them more and more available, which is very difficult to do. Trying to make low-cost, high-quality education is definitely the ultimate goal, but it's very difficult to do. Okay, that's cool. So, okay, you're specializing in certain areas, which I can totally agree with. And you're working on your own website, you said? Oh, yeah, it's okay.
So I don't have my own website, but basically,
why not? It's easy.
I guess
it's so easy. You just have a landing page. You just need your face, a landing page, some contact details. It's just basically very simple is the key, nothing complicated. You just have like my website's called mrdavidmath.com, because all my Asian students call me Mr. David. So, okay, mrdavidmath.com, and it's just basically a landing page with my contact details and a few things that I really need constantly. Like, don't you find yourself looking for the same resources all the time? So instead of like, no, you don't. I'm constantly clicking on the same kind of resources. So instead of like putting them on my browser, I just put them on a website. So I can log onto my own website and just link them from that. And it's much easier. And also the students, I also wanted a way that was easier for my students to call me up, because especially working with homeschool students or working with parents at home, and they don't know how the technology works. So I wanted to be very easy, just for them to just go to this website, click on the button, and it'll call me directly. You can do a direct Zoom call or direct Skype call from the website directly. But it's very, very easy, and it costs me about $17 a year to have a website. So you should have one.
Yeah, like I know it's cheap, I guess.
But
like,
my other thing is, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the other thing is, I could set one up for you. I could give it to you. You can have it. I'll make it, send it to you, and you can have it. I'd love to do that for the pre-apply for tutors on the platform, just to give them another leg to stand on. Because, like you're saying, you get people off the platform. So what do you do with them? Do you send them on the platform, or do you take them privately, or what do you do? So I'm building just a little system that they can have their own website, has a landing page, and it has a PayPal pay system and a calendar incorporated into it. And hopefully I can make all that up into little packages, just give it away for fun, just to see what happens if I do that.
That'd be cool. Like I'm totally down for that. I know, like, the first thing, as far as the materials go, I have a folder with all of my materials, and they're all really organized. So, if I want like these documents on using the articles or something, like I have a folder titled articles. And you're right, like, you do get into the same things, like, like every intermediate student you have, or, in particular that I have, like, I know when I teach stuff about capitalism and money, I'm using Shania Twain's Ka-Ching, and I have a whole lesson based around that. Or if I teach like women's rights. Like I have a whole lesson based around no doubts, just a girl. So a lot of the materials get used over and over again. But yeah, the website thing sounds
Do
really
you,
interesting.
do you have a lot of
Yeah.
songs? Do you have a lot of songs in your classes?
I try to incorporate song. Like it's not like an all the time thing, but
Not requisite.
you know, it's a nice way to mix it up. And you know, like even talking about like the legal system, stereotypes. You know, like I incorporate like Megadeth, Peace Cells, stuff like that. So it's all over the place and what you can use.
It's good. Do you make your own resources, or are these adapted from other websites? Do you make everything from scratch?
Most of what I use comes from other places like ESL Collective and you know, some textbooks and things. But I have made some of my own resources because when you teach cultural things, like I've used Seinfeld, I've used Friends, and I use the music videos, and I would go through and I would put my own things together. So, for example, like the Seinfeld episode, The Opposite, you know, like partly a test listening because I have like a fill in the blank for this like, you know, 4 or 5 minute video. And then, you know, we also talk about like their free time and habits and hobbies.
Do you use the videos in class? Like, how do you share the video?
So I can either share my screen or I can send them the link and I just tell them, you know, watch from this point to this point and then pause. And, you know, usually with most listenings, it takes about 2 or 3 tries to really get everything. Or like after the first try, they might have some questions about some vocab or something. But, you know, I always keep it level appropriate.
That's really good. I was going to suggest that you send them the link and they access it directly from their computer. Or do you use YouTube links? Is it external, or is it like Google Drive links?
You know, it depends. Like sometimes like I'll send them a file like because I've just downloaded it, and other times, you know, things like the music videos, they're never going away. They're always going to be on YouTube. But other things that might be subject to copyright, like the Seinfeld videos or the documentary about the electric car, who killed the electric car, those things I want to actually have the physical like file to be able to either send to them or upload or just share my screen.
So you have to be very careful about using external links because you're not sure what is appropriate on the on the website. What ages do you work with?
No children. I don't like kids.
Why not? Why not? Why not?
You know, you have to end up dealing with an extra set of people with the parents. You know, the materials you can use are a bit different, and you know, like their learning strategy is different too. Like if you work with kids, you know, it's so much more repetition. Like the brain is not fully formed, so there's just a whole different style. And you know, like the TPR or total physical response, you know, I don't want to be there being a clown and, you know, like throwing up like all kinds of puppets and stuff like that. So my preference is working with teenagers and adults. Like I mostly work with adults, and I have a few teenagers because the parents wanted me to work with their teens.
Yeah, I mean, I hear a lot of people say that. I hear a lot of people say that working with kids is too much work. It's too much energy. But it is a really, really, really steady income. There's a lot of they stay for a long time. I have some of my not I wouldn't say the youngest, but what happens to older kids is they finish. They go to college. They change towns, or they finish the course. You know, and I see a lot of people just saying like, I mean, obviously it depends on. I think I'm a trained high school teacher, so I was working with kids in that kind of respect, and then I started teaching lower middle school, and then lower down, how do you say, elementary school kids, and it's just eventually just end up teaching everybody. It's really good fun. It's really, really good, but it can be a little bit of work. It can be a little bit of hassle. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about more about pre-play and like the business as far as that's concerned? So things like your profile. What did you put in your profile? And why did you put it there? Let's have a look.
So I've updated my profile quite a few times over the years, and you know, at first I just wanted to focus on my experience, more like life experience, because like when you get a tutor, it's not just about, what it is that you're able to teach, but like they also buy your experience. So the reason why some of us charge so much is that they pay us also for our experience. So I've traveled quite a bit. I know you're in Argentina now, and like I'm in Mexico now, but like I've lived in Macedonia, I've lived in like the Balkans in general for a while, and like I've traveled, so it gives me a very different, like unique cultural perspective, having been abroad and traveling so much. So I wanted to emphasize and highlight some of those experiences that I've had, and then like as I've gained more experience, because back in like 2009 to 2012, I was working with African refugees teaching English. And then I was teaching at the university level doing sociology for a little while. So I had some classroom experience, but then, from like 2014 to like 2018, I was completely out of the classroom. So, when I was getting back into it, I wanted to not scare away people that I've never taught online before, because I felt like it was going to be a different atmosphere, a different way of conducting business. And then as far as like, putting the video together and stuff like that, I think everybody's a little self-conscious about their voice. And, when you go back and you listen, I don't know how many takes I did, for the first one, it might've been, like 20, 30. And it's always just like these little things that you pick out. And like I wasn't good at video editing, so it wasn't like I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna pause this, I'm gonna insert this video here. So I needed to have one good video and one take. So
I think most people in the same situation. They've never uploaded a video of themselves, and they've never taken a video. They're not familiar with it. I see that most people these days are just using a high quality. A cell phone has an excellent camera, has an excellent video recording. It has a very good microphone on it. You don't need anything better than that. And then I guess keep it short, keep it easy, and then just do the same take, like you said, about 4 or 5 times, or 20 times or 30 times until it comes out right. And I mean, eventually you get it. When I uploaded my first video, I'd done quite a lot of YouTube stuff before, just messing around in the classroom, trying to get the classroom online. Nothing very high quality, but I guess that helped a little bit. It wasn't that hard for me the first time, but that's really good. Okay, I guess great. Oh yeah, you said you work about like half and half, like half on Preplay, half in on other platforms. How many hours would you work a week?
For the longest time, I was doing about 30 to 35 hours a week. And lately, I've just been doing, and when I say lately, maybe like this past like maybe 6 to 8 months, I've only been doing maybe like 20 to 25. So like I've scaled back, and even like some weeks I think it was only like 15 to 20. And I had just kind of like let my schedule drop off because I was working on some other projects. So I wasn't actively recruiting. I wasn't asking for referrals. I wasn't doing anything to boost my business. So like if people finished something, if people left, it was like, all right, cool, I got more time for these other projects.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I've got like 3 or 4 other projects going on, and they do eat up the time. They need it as well. You said earlier about posting. I want to ask you about this. Posting in like Facebook groups, was it? For IELTS, like specifically, you can get involved in those kind of groups, and then post. I guess if you're working on Preplay, you can post your Preplay profile in there. That's the way to get your foot in the door. I did this as well. I did this for some engineering students. There's for some
Okay.
but the thing is finding, how do you even find they even exist? You have to do a bit of research into it, because for example, I'm working with a very specific engineering group, and they made a Facebook group so like to get through exams. I was like, so as a tutor, as a math tutor, I can just walk in there and be like, hey guys, I just trained up 2 of your guys because I got referral from one to the next. So I repeated the exam twice, training up a student. So now I'm doing a 3rd time. And the second guy said, why don't you just go to the Facebook group and do some publicity? So I said, okay. So I like your idea a lot. It's a really good way to take things forward, to go seek out those groups, those small groups, or the smaller groups. I think would be better for the contacts, because people are seeing more. Go find those small specific groups and then go do some publicity. It's very easy to do free publicity on Facebook. You just put a couple of screenshots, a few posts, with a link to your profile, like, hey, come book me. It's
Yeah.
really cool. Okay.
So yeah, there's that. Reddit is also a really good place to find some threads that might be related to things that you're doing. And when about as like posting and getting referrals and stuff, when I use my Preply profile, I only do that to show them student reviews, because
for prestige.
even with so many lessons, yeah, like not everybody will leave a review, but I think I've got like 50 or 51 or something like that on there now.
Yes, you
so just to show people that I'm just not some random stalker and trying to steal their money, because when you go to those groups, you do find that you'll find people spelling it TOLIF instead of TOEFL or stuff like that, that clearly have no idea what they're doing. Or you find a lot of gullible people responding to posts about like you don't need to take the test, we'll get you the certificate, or we guarantee you this score and we give you advanced questions, and people believe it because they don't know better. So yeah, like just using it to build some credibility and show that this is what you do for a living. Also, that you can make it cheaper by going outside the platform and just using PayPal, because I would never bring anybody onto the Preply platform like that's external. Like marketing is Preply's job, not mine. So if I find students outside the platform, like they're mine, keep your hands off. And
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I totally agree with you. Yes, because obviously they take a cut, and if you get them yourself, then you've just done their job. Yeah. My next question then is, how do you organize that? I really, really, really need a system to organize it. I've got about 18 students these days. No, I don't know if it's 18, but I got a lot of students off the platform, and I just don't enjoy the whole chasing payments and making people pay, and then keeping track of all the times and stuff. So how do you handle all that?
So like my wife hates my system, but I have never had an issue in the 3 years I've been using it. I literally just have a Word document, and it says the name of the student, the price charged, how many hours they have left. And because I conduct most of the lessons through Skype, at the end of the lesson, I can see the lesson notes. So I don't need to make notes in the Word document as well about like what we're doing, what's next, because that's at the end of the chat. So, it might say, Gary, and then the price, and then 9. And then when we have a lesson, all I have to do is go in, that 9 becomes an 8, save, done.
Do you post it in the Skype chat, or is it just in your document? No need.
No, like, if you're going through Skype, for example, if they ever have a dispute, you can see like call duration, the date, and you can be like, like you paid on this date and blah, blah, blah. But, most people are, pretty trusting about the whole situation.
Yeah.
And, if you want to, especially with people that are buying like 5-hour packages, stuff like that, it gets pretty simple. And usually people are pretty consistent about the lessons they take. So like one guy that buys a 20-hour package, I have him on Mondays, I have his kids on Wednesdays. So I know that, every 10 weeks that package is up, and it's really easy to go back and track. So I only do payment in advance. Like I don't conduct classes and then have them pay me, because this is our protection for actually showing up. Like, you don't go to the grocery store, bring stuff home, eat it, and then pay for it. So it's like the same way with, conducting our services. So everything just goes through PayPal. I update the number of lessons they have when I receive the payment, and that's it. So I think it's really simple.
I'm gonna try that out because like, I'm using a whiteboard right now, and that's sort of like a Neanderthal style technique. I should be using a Word document. I'll give it a go. I'll see if it works because I've been struggling with this for years. And I do the opposite. They pay afterwards, and I have to go counting the number of hours we've done this week, this month, and you're right. We should make pre-calculations, and then, like you said, deduct the hours rather than do the other way around. That's a much better idea. I was trying to organize
So
it.
everybody's comfortable with different things, whether it's like a 5 hour, 10 hour, 20 hours. So like I always ask a student, like, you want to pay as we go. And I set very clear boundaries and guidelines with them. Like, if you cancel like less than 24 hours in advance, like basically I cannot make a living because I cannot schedule somebody else with that short notice. So like you're buying that class. Now, obviously, like, I've been lenient on that policy too. Like, if people got COVID, if their kid got COVID and they had to go to school to pick them up, like there's always extenuating circumstances. But, like if you get stuck at work, that's not my problem. So,
No, but it's fair. It's fair, and especially if you're clear about it to start with, and then you can always let them off at your own discretion later on, and
exactly.
the clients will be very happy about that. Yeah. How much of a kind of a discount do you give them versus what I say? I do the same thing. So I, for example, I'm publicizing on Preply, and I do use it for reputability. That word I can't pronounce, and then prestige, to, like you said, to show them that you have a solid, you're not just a crazy person, you have a solid reference. For example, it's a job reference. I use it as a job reference. And then I have a published price of $40, for example, and then I would say, okay, I give them a 15% discount. So I would say I will give you a 15% discount if you come to me directly, or more, depending on the person, depending on who they came through. If they come through a friend and their friend is only paying $30 instead of 36 or 34, I would say I'll give you the same as your friend. It depends on who they are, how much they can afford, and also what country and their background. I kind of know where they're coming from. But do you have a standard discount down from the pre-pay price or the published price? The published price?
Well, I mean, everybody on here is going to see my profile. Like I was at about 30 for the longest time, and I'm like, well, like now that some projects are wrapping up, I want to increase my bookings. Like, let me just put it at 25. Typically through like the TOEFL groups and stuff, I usually go like, 22, 23 bucks an hour. It's not something that like I need like a large salary to do or whatever. But like 22, 23 seems fair to me. So that's the typical price that I do, like $3 off of the Preply price.
Okay, sounds good. Great. Thanks for letting me know. I'm gonna have to look that up. Okay. Tell me a little bit about your equipment. Where do you teach? Your teaching environment? You in an office, in a living room, in the kitchen? Tell me how it went 3 years ago when you started. How is it different to how it is now?
Well, I'm in a different country than when I started. So like when I was living in Macedonia, I was in my living room, and like it was just like a solid white background with the wall, like a couple pictures, decoration. Now I'm in Mexico. My wife and I are we're visiting her parents, and then the outbreak happened, so we just stayed here. And right now I'm in my bedroom, but she teaches online as well. And since she didn't have classes this morning, I like this background better with the wood finish than I do my background in the other room, which is more of just like a room for storage. And like it's a very plain white wall, but like the houses here in Mexico are mostly cement, so you can't nail things into them or like the whole thing will crumble. So as far as like decorations and stuff, like it's pretty plain.
We rent this house, and I nailed a lot of stuff into it. We rent a house in Argentina, and we've been here for 2 years. We're going to stay for another 2 years because it's really nice. But like yeah, in like other countries, you can't touch the like in the States or in Europe, you can't like install stuff. Like here, you just do whatever you want. So yeah, as long as you clean it up when you're done. Like I literally installed. We have a garage downstairs, and I closed it using drywall, put a door on it and a window, and turned it into a bedroom. So now it's an extra bedroom as a guest bedroom. It's like great. It's just held in with a couple of screws. I can hopefully pop out all the drywall, completely modify the whole house. Okay, that's really cool. What about your equipment? What kind of technology are you using?
So the equipment I have in Asus Rogue. So I got like a really fast like gaming computer, and even though I don't game, I just bought something that I might be able to use for the next 7 to 10 years, high speed, because as far as like the processor goes, like the better processor you have, like the more internet signal that you can pick up and the stronger your connection will be. So
Yeah,
since I teach professionally, and
future
I could
proofing.
afford it.
So it's into future proofing, like buy something that will last the next like 5 or 10 years. Yeah, if you can. Yeah, yeah. I can totally agree to that.
That like you want professional solutions if you do this full time. So being a digital nomad, this is how I make a living. So if you just buy some Dell or something like that, some commercial piece of junk, you'll end up spending like $500 or $600, and then 2-3 years it breaks, or they build in these defects, especially with the hinges. So it's designed to break within a couple of years, then you have to buy it again. So if you're doing something professionally, you want professional solutions.
I suppose you said digital nomads. I suppose you are moving around every so often.
I want to, once this pandemic is over.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, were you doing that before, or did you not quite get into it because of COVID?
I was doing it before. Like I was living and working in Kosovo, and that was like my first excursion away from the U.S. And then I was living in Macedonia next door for a bit. Doing some traveling, whether it be like to Greece or Italy or whatever. And then after that, we wanted to come and visit her parents, because like people don't live forever. And like she's been away for quite some time, so we're like, yeah, let's go here, spend a year, maybe two at most, and then we'll get back into the like the physical teaching, like in classroom stuff, and we can scout jobs from here, but then I don't want to teach in person with the whole pandemic going on. So now, like, I think we're staying here like indefinitely, and then we'll figure it out later.
I can understand that. So yeah, my question then is like, is that what you want to do for the next like 5 years, or next 10 years? Is that your future? Do you want to continue to spend to travel around, spend some time in, because I mean it sounds great. It sounds like I've met a lot of young guys doing the same kind of thing, like and I came to, I mean I was living in England, I traveled around Europe, and I came to Argentina, and just I've been here for 10 years now. um and now all the kids are growing up. We can't move. We're going to stay here for a little bit, but then it sounds like you can just take your computer and move. You take your laptop and move. Obviously, it's a very mobile job. I mean, I see that publicized a lot. I see that as the publicity, the advertisement advertised a lot, saying like, oh yeah, be a digital nomad. But I don't know how many people really make it work. I don't know how many people really are very successful at that, or if it's a very satisfying job. I don't know if it's a satisfying way to be, a way to live. I do know that when I was traveling, it takes a long time to get into a culture. It takes a long time to really appreciate, a culture. Just staying for a month is not long enough. Like staying for a year would be nice, to really understand it. Is that what you're thinking of doing in the future then?
Absolutely. So like right now is just kind of like undecided. I mean, I know eventually like I want to settle somewhere and build some roots and make some strong friendships and things like that. But like I really have no desire to ever live in the US again. I really find that place to be extremely toxic. And, I find that, like the more I travel, the more I appreciate other places, the more freedom I actually have. Like I feel more free in Mexico or in Macedonia than I ever did in the US.
Oh,
So
I totally agree. I totally agree about. I have the same feeling about the UK, about England. It's so difficult to put your finger on it. It's so difficult to say specifically what the problem is, and everybody looks towards those countries and says, "Oh, it must be great. It must be a nice life, and you must be very happy living there." But then, all my family have moved away from England because of there's this a very it's very difficult. I don't know if you can put it into words better than I can, but I think it's a very strange feeling about living there. And I think COVID has really brought that into focus. I think that the crises that has caused the pandemics, people going crazy, people really freaking out. It's really brought that into focus. And I've got some better ways to describe it these days. But I can totally appreciate what you're saying about not wanting to live there. Yeah.
I think the thing that I read that put it in the best perspective, and I couldn't word it any better, is if anybody that's watching this Googles the article, How the American Idiot Made America Unlivable. And it points out every issue that COVID has exacerbated, from healthcare to how we treat workers to immigration policies. I mean, you name it. It really just points out everything, how, the educational system created part of the mess that we're in. So I couldn't put that article into any better words. And sometimes when I teach cultural classes, I actually use that article, especially when people are thinking of moving to the US, or they are moving to the US, because not trying to dissuade them, but trying to get them to really understand the culture. So, things like medical bankruptcy that don't exist anywhere else in the world, things like that. And I see your facial expression, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
No, I'm not familiar with that. We have in Argentina we have free healthcare, and in England we have free healthcare. In Argentina we have free. There's free and there's low cost private. There's high cost private, and I see that especially in very rich countries like in England with education as well, about this two-tier society where you have access to certain things if you have the money for it, which is just not possible for 90% of the population. Most people are just too poor to be able to afford that kind of stuff. You guys have no there's no safety net. I mean, you have to pay for it, or what else do? You can get free, you can get benefits.
The safety net was really, when I got sick living in the US a couple times, I would go to the emergency room because they can't deny you, and then you just don't pay the bill. Because if you give me a bill for $1,000 and that's a significant chunk of what I'm earning per month. No, I'm just gonna put this in the trash and pretend it never existed. And then, with the whole credit thing, after 7 years, it's gonna fall off my credit anyways, because you couldn't find me and I couldn't pay it. So, you get these penalties against your credit. But yeah, I mean, if you're poor and you can't afford healthcare at the time, the ER is about all you can do. I mean, there's other systems in place, you can apply for the state care and stuff like that. And, some people do get the free health insurance.
But that must be sorry to interrupt, but that must be a real issue for immigrants, or for the kind of people you're working with. I mean, surely, I'm not sure. I'm not clued up about it. I have no idea. I'm not sure they would be either. What about students in that situation, foreign students, or what about people, like I said, like immigrants looking to get into the US, or who have already got into the US? I mean, they must have a lot of these things must be a bit of a surprise for them.
Yeah, I mean, whether you're immigrating or you're just a citizen there already. I mean, the prices are just too high for health insurance. And even if you get health insurance, depending on the one you get, it might not cover everything.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Or,
yeah.
You might have the high deductibles. I remember back in 2008, the whole thing with the Obamacare, and everybody had to buy health insurance. And if you didn't, they would give you a penalty. So like I ended up paying $800 one year because I was too poor to afford health insurance. So I got a penalty for not having it. So yeah, I find it just like a really, really weird place. And I hope they catch up with the rest of the civilized countries someday.
That's crazy. Okay, we're going to keep this kind of tight. So tell me a couple more things is what do you do to look after your own health? Um, if you're teaching for, you said 30 hours a week. So is there anything you take, any special measures? Do you look after your eyes, your hands, your back, anything like that?
And so I do have a standing desk sometimes. So some classes I do teach standing up. Like I just have this thing, almost looks like the evil robot from RoboCop, where it just, sits here and I just put the computer on top of it. I can stand, it's cool. Because sitting too much is definitely a problem. I usually adjust my laptop to the lowest or near the lowest brightness settings. When I started, and I have my brightness settings about midway or just over, I felt some serious eye strain. So, it might feel weird or really dark at first, but when you adjust it way down and use it for a while, your eyes do adjust, and it seems totally normal. So so those would be a couple things. I know, like, especially in the group, there was like a couple of people posting like, oh, I teach 18 lessons in a row. And people are like, that's BS. Like, how do you go to the bathroom? How do you eat? How do you sleep? How do you drink? And, like,
Probably
if
me.
I do,
Sorry.
like three, like actually like 5 lessons in a row is probably like my maximum. So if I see that people are booking like, 4 or 5 lessons in a row, then, I'll schedule the next hour as time off or something like that. But, like at
That's
my
good.
most, yeah.
I never thought about doing that. That's ridiculous. I should have done that. So you're actively like or in a like agile way. You're checking your profile, you're checking your calendar, and then blocking out times to ensure that you do get a break. You're not doing more than a certain amount of time, because obviously you can't have like fixed times off, because that blocks out your availability, which knocks you down on the algorithm, which means you can't get
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah. I think it's so strange we're all working to an algorithm. We're all sacrificing ourselves in order to please some AI somewhere. It's ridiculous. It's becoming more and more prevalent, isn't it? I mean, with search SEO, search engine optimization, not just in where we work, but also on Uber and things like this. It's ridiculous. Everyone's working to an algorithm these days, of on YouTube, and it's just trying to get ahead in the system. That's really good. There's one more thing we've got to talk about, which is you've got a book coming out, haven't you?
Yep, I actually just got it released on Amazon this week, and I'm really hoping that in the next 2 weeks, once I get the final cover files for the paperback and hardcover for Ingram Spark, because like every company requires a different size and format, that it'll be with a much better global distribution. But the book is titled "Know Your Shit," and the premise of the book is it's linguistics, etymology, designed for ESL and EFL communities. And it's also a bit of humor for native speakers. And I got the idea partly through working with my students. And, like I work with adults, so I can deal with adult language. And the idea also came when, like I was just noticing in a particular week from a book that I was reading from Melissa Moore. And I was referencing my cat as a brick shit house. And everything that week just got me thinking about like how many ways we actually use it. So I just told my wife, like, how many ways can you think of to use it? And we just started making a list. And as we're making the list, I realized that I might actually be onto something here. And, by the time that this book was finished, about a year later, we came up with, over 1,000 uses. And with those uses, gave, quotes from movies, books, interviews, things like that. So you can see the cultural relevance, the context, and like a detailed explanation of like how these things are used. So yeah, it was a really fun project to work
I
on.
see you have a lot of references to movies and songs as well. I do agree with you. This is the difference between like book English and actual spoken English. And I do think there's definitely a niche market there. There's definitely something to be filled. Because of course, Cambridge and Oxford and all the official governing bodies, it's so strange that we have to vet the English we're teaching, especially like for adults. And it's so prevalent in popular culture, in Hollywood movies and YouTube. And my kids watch so many streamers streaming stuff on YouTube in Spanish, and they're all swearing in English the whole time. And like the YouTube algorithm just lets it go, or no one blocks it because it's in another language. So it's all over the place. But I did have a good read last night. I had a good look through it. I wanted to ask you how long it took you. You said it took you like it took about a year to get it all put together. Were there any things you didn't put into it?
What are some things I didn't put into
Yeah,
it?
things you didn't put into it. Like, how did you keep it focused? Because I was looking through it, and you said there's like over 1,000 uses. But what are the things you didn't put into it? Is there anything you said, like anything particular you said, I'm not going to put that in there? No.
No, like this is a book for 18 plus, so like I didn't hold anything back. The only thing that I didn't do was use a lot of the slang from whether it's like the UK or Australia and other places where English is dominant. So I have a plan about maybe 2-3 years from now to put out like an international edition that's also going to be like heavily illustrated. So
I was gonna say some illustrations would be great, and to really, I mean, you're talking a lot about things like phrasal verbs and like contextual, or those things are so difficult to explain, like the contextual or cultural references. I mean, when you see this when you're teaching English, it's like, how do you explain that thing? Where does it come from? And you talk about the etymology and then the history of it, and then you're right, it is a North American. Spin on things. I was going to say actually, because you could get a British version and Australian version, and they're
yeah,
going
so
to be
like
quite a lot
it's
different.
very like North American focused. And I was watching Black Mirror once, and one of the British characters was like, oh shit, and excuse my British accent, but yeah, she said shit it, and I was like, oh, I've never heard that one before. And then I got to thinking like, oh, I wonder how many different ways there are in other places. So like I think like this one came out to about 208 pages or so, and for an international edition, like I could really see a 400-page book coming out.
Oh, you should definitely do the American version, Australian version, British version, and anything else. Any other countries speak English as a native language, which is a lot. But yeah, definitely that would be lots of fun. Okay, thanks very much. That's great. Thanks for coming on, Gary. Thanks for having a chat with me. And
You're
thanks
welcome.
for
Thanks for having me.
really, really nice to hear about all your experiences, and uh, everything we went over today. It was really, really good. I'll see you later. Thanks so much. Okay.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Take care, David.
Thank you. Bye bye.